Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr Speaker, can I first put on record my absolute disgust at the comments made by the previous speaker, not only bringing members' families into this, but making fun of a husband's name, of a partner's name. To make fun of a name simply because it isn't a European name, Mr Peters, I think is absolutely racist. I think it's racist. And I want to put on record my disgust at those sorts of comments in this debate. And I have to say, Mr Speaker, that it's a bit rich to sit and listen to a number of members in this House talking about honesty, openness and transparency. And actually that member who's just resumed his seat couldn't even answer questions, had to put a notice up that said no, rather than answer questions, quite simple questions about openness and transparency, Mr Peters. What happened when you were on the end of it? Well, I want to speak today about my Justice Lead Minister, Judith Collins, because she has proven that she fronts up and she is the one who gives the media full disclosure of what happened. She is the one who fronted the media on the steps of Parliament and disclosed the dinner. She didn't wait for the media to dig it out, like they had to do with Winston Peters. It wasn't coming from the media, like David Cunliffe's trust. Didn't come from them. It came from her fronting the media and saying, this is what happened. She answered the questions last week. She answered the questions that were put to her. But, Mr Speaker, right at the heart of all of this is the fact that from the day this John Key-led government came to came into government, we have been fighting to increase the exports from this country. After 9 years of a Labor government that drove this country's exports into the ground. This is a country that makes its money, that supports its people by selling our goods around the world. And 9 years of a Labor government saw internal consumption at an all-time high and exports at an all-time low. And we have worked assiduously to support and promote the exporters of this country. Every minister, every time they travel overseas, has a responsibility to be promoting New Zealand, to be promoting New Zealand goods, and to be promoting all that is good about New Zealand exporters. And this government has a proud record of doing that. And as a consequence, we have seen a growth in the export market. Through the deepest, darkest days of the recession, we as a country were thankful that the previous Labor government had negotiated a free trade agreement with China, because the growth in exports to China helped this country earn dollars in order to support us through that recession. And in fact, the exports to China have made it our most important market. So the growth in exports from New Zealand companies have seen this country help itself through the recession. And so there has been a responsibility on us all. And I have no doubt that any minister, any time they had the opportunity overseas on any sort of official trip, at any portfolio, would do their very best to support New Zealand and promote New Zealand. Mr Speaker, the Prime Minister talked about a higher standard for ministers, and that has been quoted here. Yes, we have had no drunk driving convictions on this side of the House. We haven't had any people convicted of corruption, Mr Speaker, and we have had no one that the media have had to dig out and find have hidden donations in trusts. Mr Cunliffe used a device that he knew would hide who his donors were. We don't know today who two of those donors are. The media is still working on it, but why doesn't David Cunliffe take a leaf out of Judith Collins' book and stand and talk to the media and disclose fully who those donors were and how much money they gave to his leadership campaign? If we are talking in this House seriously about double standards, then it's about time the Labor Party came to the party too.
The Honourable Trevor Mallard, 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've now had